want to just have a chessboard in front of me while I talk about things for a minute before we get started with the game. Because I was thinking again, I don't know, not again exactly, but as as you guys know, I record these episodes often long in advance, recording several episodes a day while I'm excited about something, and then just releasing one per day, so that there's like kind of a longer. Anyway, the point is, I'm in the past. You guys are hearing this from a long time ago. Um, and someone commented on the YouTube videos, like asking me about openings, and I said what I've said in some of my earlier videos, which I don't know if they've been released yet. So that's why it's confusing living in the past. But basically, I was like, "What opening do you like?" And I was like, "Well, I don't really think it's uh, worth. I don't think it's a great idea for me to spend a bunch of time studying any specific openings because I'm dropping pieces all the time anyway." And like working on tactics so that I don't drop pieces is way more important. Just get something non-horrible out of the opening, maybe, and then wait for your opponent to do something horrible in the mid game and then win. Which I think is true, but I don't know if it really describes my current approach. Because I haven't specifically been trying to improve tactics, right? I've just been playing games and analyzing them at the end and like noticing tactics that I missed because the computer tells me about them and so on, blah, blah, blah. But is that really like trying to improve? So I wanted to revisit something that I talked about a couple of years ago in a Prismata video called deliberate practice, which is like the one generally applicable technique that I know for getting better at anything reasonably well. Um, and the idea is don't just like practice. You're just kind of, I mean, you can look it up, right? But it's a well known technique in some circles. Anyway, you can just like practice by just like playing lots of games, and if you're a bad enough player, just getting more experience is really what you need, and so probably that could be okay for me. But if you want to like actually improve skill and not just reinforce your current habits, it's better to like have specific improvement goals and work on those. And so my like distillation of deliberate practice is like figure out what you are currently bad at and find a weakness in your current level of performance or skill or whatever. Um, and then figure out some way to improve that weakness and focus exclusively, well, not maybe exclusively is wrong word, but focus on that during your practice session. Um, and ideally, you would also be measuring your progress on that as well. So once the idea is you pick some very small piece of the game or the whatever that you're currently not good at, and you practice it until it becomes a habit that you don't have to think about much anymore, and then you go find something else and you work on that. So, for example, for a chess player at my level, you can tactics are what I want to work on, but that's a very big topic, and it's hard to measure, like hard to specifically focus on tactics. Well, I don't know. It's a broad area, and it's sort of hard to say. Oh, I missed 4 tactics this game. Is that a lot or a little? Were they important tactics? Were they easy tactics? Um, so I think the simplest thing that is very easily measurable and would obviously improve my skill is like notice when you're hanging a piece or your opponent is hanging a piece, right? And take it if so, or don't drop it. So what I want to do to focus on like even that I think is too large an area, um, because sometimes you shouldn't take undefended pieces. Sometimes it's okay to leave them there, whatever, because there's some tactic. But so like what I want to work on is just noticing undefended pieces. Maybe you do something about them, maybe you don't. Whatever. Just know which pieces are undefended, and let that try to feed your decision making. And it's important when you're doing kind of deliberate practice to have the right goals in mind. If you say, okay, what I want to do this game is notice undefended pieces, um, and then you play a game and you like notice all the undefended pieces, but you lose anyway. Um, it's sort of natural to be mad. Like, man, I was practicing this thing, I was doing my best, and I just got an even worse result, right? But you shouldn't do that. You should say, okay, you know what? I made it through this game. I noticed all the undefended pieces, and then I ran out of time. You know, oh well. I'm improving at noticing undefended pieces, and you just keep practicing that until it doesn't take you so long, or whatever. So that's my goal. Is I want to play a game, get as far as I can through the game, hopefully win, maybe, but more importantly, just notice pieces of mine and my opponents that are undefended, and you know, hopefully that will improve my play. But if it doesn't, we'll get there. So we can use this position as an example. What pieces are undefended in my opponent's position? Only this queen, I believe, right? The king is guarding all the stuff over here, and the pawns are all taking care of each other. The base pawns are both protected by rooks. The bishop's protected by a rook. So I think only the opponent's queen is undefended. How about me? I have this pawn and this bishop are undefended. Great. So now I could proceed to make a move, make a plan, whatever. And I don't actually know what to do with this puzzle. I think I'm just going to leave it for a while and go play. And I'm actually going to try a slower time control to give me time to do this. Not a ton slower. We're going to try 15:10. So that combined with the 7-minute introduction at the beginning of the episode means this is going to be a longer game. We'll definitely only play one. But that's just what I want to work on. So I'd show you guys about how like I think you should practice. So, okay, opponent has no undefended pieces. You don't start the game with any, and this doesn't create one. It's a d-pawn opening. Okay, so I want to do it like before each of my moves is the basic idea that I have in mind. I don't know. Let's just advance this knight. He's still defended. So even if I move a piece and make it undefended, I'm like okay with that. I just want to, before each of my moves, assess the position. Right now, this pawn is undefended. Okay. Let's try to get some center control. Planning something like this. Okay, we can't do that now because it would be insufficiently defended. We could go up here and pin the knight. That would be kind of nice because them taking like this would be an imposition. It makes my bishop undefended, but I'm okay with that for now. Also, I'm able to castle very soon, which is nice. Oh, by the way, my rook is undefended. I was looking at, like... I said you don't start with any undefended pieces, but actually the rooks are undefended. It's very hard to take advantage of that, but it is a true fact. Okay, so I think we do this, right? My bishop's undefended. I don't want to spend another move with him. Let's just do this and make them take with queen. The queen's doing a good job, but she's somewhat exposed here. The rooks are all still undefended and everything else isn't. Got it. Oh, and another thing is it's like important to measure. Can I do this? I can do this now if I want. It's useful to be able to measure progress, to say how well you did at the end of a game. And I don't know. It's a little hard to do when you're like on camera and you have time constraints. What ideally you would do is like write down or like take a picture of the board each turn and highlight all the undefended pieces or something. I had someone I don't know. Okay, we definitely don't want to allow... Well, this would be fine. I could even just castle. My queen is under threat and the knight is pinned, but I don't think it's the end of the world. I'll just castle. Because otherwise you can't really tell whether you're doing a good job with your goals. And so my idea was, at the end of the game, not necessarily. I can't easily tell, like, did I miss any undefended pieces? But I can say, did I miss taking any undefended pieces, or did I let my opponent take an undefended piece? And that's an okay proxy for how good I was at noticing them. All right, now send this bishop away. He probably wants to go there, I guess. No, just goes in for the trade. Interesting. Any undefended pieces, by the way? Just the rooks. Well, actually, 3 rooks. I'm about to make my... No, I'm not. I thought I was about to make an undefended piece, but I didn't. The bishop is guarded by this rook. Okay, this did not create any undefended pieces. Opponent's preparing to castle kingside, perhaps. I think just a modest move with the bishop is fine. This is defended by the knight, by the way. Where is this knight going? Here would be bad. I guess here. That's a pretty good space for them. Let's try and stop that. My bishop is becoming undefended, which I think I'm okay with. Am I? Here. This would be the main thing that might disrupt me somehow, but I don't think it actually does. Makes my bishop kind of suck. Can I, like, do something else to him? Put him here? No. I wonder if I should have put my bishop on the long diagonal instead. Okay, yeah, this doesn't feel great. So this piece is undefended. Keep that in mind. Also, both of my opponent's rooks. I'm not sure about that. It's fine, probably, but like, why? I don't know. Maybe it's okay. I'm slightly more developed, so my opponent should be preferring a closed position to an open one, maybe, is what this is about. But I think I'm alright with this. I would love to get my rook this file, and I think they're giving me that opportunity. My bishop is still undefended. None of their pieces are, except for the rooks. Anyway, I want to, whoops, take like this, I think. I could take like that and give my rooks both of these diagonals. Or files. No. What am I talking about? I don't get this file. I give them that file. If they take. Ah, but if I take, I get it. But if I take, I isolate this pawn a little bit. I guess not really. I can just push him up here at some point. What if I just develop the rook first? Then when takes... Yeah, okay. Let's... I don't know which rook I want to bring over. Which file is more important? I think I want... Yeah. Okay, let's bring this rook. Okay. Now... Do I not want to open this up? I think I do. By the way, opponent now has the queen undefended. I'm not sure how long that's been the case. I should have noticed it earlier. I think it was true after this pawn move or something. Yeah, give me this diagonal. Or file. It's a file. You should take here because this pawn is under fire twice and defended only once. Also because you don't want to blow up your center for no good reason. I suppose you could push the pawn, but I would just get out of the way. My bishop, by the way, is still undefended. Oh, takes with queen. That's interesting. Why? This pawn is defended only by the queen, so I could pick it up here and attack the undefended bishop as well. I don't see anything the queen can do about it. She could take here, but then the bishop falls. Okay. I mean, it's going into a pin, I guess. But it's defended. I think I'm okay with this. Undefended pieces. This pawn. This bishop. This bishop. So I don't like this pawn. It's isolated, kind of uncomfortable, right? I wonder if there's something with, like, here to pin the knight, and then if I try to take this, they end up getting this pawn in the end, but... Oh, interesting. Okay, I see. They get the pawn back, and also attack my undefended bishop, so a tactic based on the piece that I left undefended. Fair enough. What if I try to chase the queen away? She's still undefended, so here... That gives her a chance to come back and defend the bishop, I guess. She might go here. I guess that would be alright with me. It gets my queen into a more active position. Kingside's kind of locked up. This is where all the excitement's going to be. So now I think you have to move the queen, and I think you have to move her here. Undefended pieces, by the way? The queen. Oh, okay. Yeah, you could move her there. That would be fine. So both... My bishop's no longer undefended. Theirs still is. But now my knight is undefended. I like the idea of something like this once the bishop moves. But as long as they stay on this diagonal, I can't actually do it. It's a pretty symmetrical position. So my knight's undefended, their bishop's undefended. I should probably get on this open file. Bishop's now undefended, knight's still undefended. Their pawn has become undefended, and I could consider just taking it. Is there some reason not to? Also, my knight is undefended, and my bishop. So, say here. I think I could just move the bishop in that case, like so. The pawn is not hanging, so this seems like it would be fine. I think the knight is crafty enough to escape a rook, a couple rooks trying to track him down. Okay, what's going on? My knight's undefended, my bishop's undefended, so is theirs. That about covers it. And I have moves like this coming up, by the way, which are pretty cool. So they're trying to attack my undefended bishop, which is cool. But this attacks an undefended bishop and a rook. So I guess we could go like this, but it comes with check, and that seems good to me. So I think I go here. And if they run with their bishop, I can run with mine. And if they don't, I get to take with check, and probably something good will happen as a result. My knight is still undefended, and so is their bishop. And my bishop. Does this lead to any problems? No, I just take their bishop, and then win the rook. My knight is now defended, so my only undefended piece is this bishop, which I have left there on purpose. This check, now they have to take with the rook, and I think that's an improvement for me because I get this skewer, or not skewer, but I pin the rook to the other rook. Yeah, this seems great. Undefended pieces, by the way, this rook and this bishop. So here with check, and then here. I like how that's gone. This bishop's undefended, and so is this rook. And that should be it. And I like my obviously I like my position being up a pawn and soon the exchange, but also I like my rooks feel more active, right? This one is great. This bishop currently is insane, but of course that's more of a tactical than a strategic point. And this rook, I don't know, he's okay. He can get to an open file easily, but like being stuck behind a pawn is, you know, plus and minus, right? He's defending an important asset I have, a passed pawn. Right, having a rook behind a passed pawn is generally speaking great. This pawn is not like very fast in that he's still on my second rank, but there are no other pawns to challenge him. Okay, I don't think this is threatening anything much. I'll just grab the rook. Contest the file. If they want to get, I guess here their rook is undefended, by the way. Here, suppose they do go after my pawn. Do I care? Or do I just say, all right, check, check, forcing the king here? Oh, that doesn't work. They would just take my rook. I don't think I want their king to get over here. Like, he's kind of okay there. I think I could start pushing this pawn and see what they can do about it. Maybe one rook behind and one rook to the side is the way to approach that. I have, by the way, no undefended pieces. They have this rook. This makes them move. And then I think we just shove the pawn. The king could get over, but I don't think he can deal with the rooks. Okay, I was wondering if I had recently made a move that put the rook on the c file, and that now putting him on the b file was kind of silly, but no. This is something I don't want to happen. It would be forking my rook and pawn, but I don't know, maybe it would be fine. I think I just push now, right? What is this guy threatening? I guess, by the way, he's undefended. I guess he's sort of threatening maybe to somehow coordinate with the knight and hunt down, say, this pawn? Yeah, maybe what I need to do... I already have a rook on my back rank, so I'm safe there. But on my second rank, there are some issues. So let's step up. Maybe I should have done that first instead of going to the b file. This rook becomes undefended. There are no immediately visible tactics against him. So I think it's okay. The idea with going to the b file is eventually I'll have my pawn, say, here, and then I can play like rook here where it's defended by the pawn and make it hard for the rook to stay, for the enemy rook to stay in front of my pawn. That was why I liked the b file, because I can defend it with the pawn. All right. So knight's undefended. He's threatening to get to my rook, I guess? Push. I think I can push. My rook's still undefended. Mm-hmm. But so what? Like, I think I can just go here and be... Well, no, then you go back, right? So this makes it hard for the knight to attack me again. You know what? Why don't I bring my king over? No, my rook is undefended. That's why. I want to bring him over eventually, but I don't think today is that day. Let's just go here so it's hard for the knight to... The knight has to make like 3 moves to get here. So we're sort of safe from immediate challenge. Also, the knight is pinned if I get a rook here. Okay. So he's going to blockade. But I can chase him. I guess then you just defend it? All right, now we bring over my king. My rook is undefended, by the way, but I think it's fine. If I go here, there's this check, which I don't think is anything to worry too much about, but I guess it means I can't advance over here very well, can I? So maybe I step up with this rook first? This check is not so worrying because it doesn't attack a pawn as well. Both of their pieces are undefended. There ought to be some tactics coming up. So they're trying to stop my king from entering, I guess? I'm just going to keep going. I don't see any problems. Both of my rooks are undefended. And so now is my g-pawn. But also so are both of their pieces. It's getting a little bit chaotic over here. I have this, but I'm not sure what it accomplishes. It chases the knight away, right? But the knight can come here. Well, I could step up. I think that's all right. You can go there, which is defended, but then I would just push. I'm obviously way ahead, but this is the kind of endgame that I could definitely lose from some single blunder. Right, it's kind of tempting to do this to double up, but then if a rook gets behind here, it's really hard for me to start to go back to defending the pawn. I think we can push. The rook's not in any immediate danger. The pawn isn't either. The rook is undefended, but it's not in danger. If they take like that, I'm totally thrilled. I don't get to promote, but they don't have this knight anymore, and I'm up an entire rook in that case. And otherwise, I can do something like this. There's no real way for the knight to defend that square. And just getting more progress with that pawn is ideal. This is undefended. This is undefended. These are undefended. These are undefended. So there's a lot of hanging pieces now, but I think that's sort of fine. What is that king up to? How is he going to get in here? It has to be like that, right? So push king here. Check, go away? I'm not sure if that works. He can go away to here, and then I still can't easily... I can't safely push the pawn. I can pin the knight now. I'm not sure what that accomplishes. Do I really want to trade my rook for a knight? No, because then it's easy enough for the king and the rook to coordinate on my pawn, I think. I could come here. I drop this pawn if I do so, but I'm not sure I really care about that. I don't know. I don't like the idea of this. Oh, not that. Here, picking up my rook with the skewer. I'm not sure how to deal with this king move. I guess it lets me play here with check and then, say, scoot over another rook. I think I can get away with this. The pawn and the rook and the rook and the rook and these pawns are all hanging, are undefended anyway. Hanging, I think, usually implies that they're also being attacked, or rather, that the number of attackers exceeds the number of defenders. Okay. But I can come here. King can't really get involved, except here, which drops the knight. I would be perfectly happy with that, obviously. Now the only thing I have undefended is this. Ooh, I would love a rook trade, I think, right? Just double check. Takes, here. Threatening this. Yeah, I think that's great for me. Right? Well, no, hang on. Takes, here, check, allows this. No, it doesn't. What am I even saying? Takes, here. Now the king is cut off. They get a move, but they can't get closer. Then I can swing up here and make the knight go away. Yes, I like this. Here chases away the knight. But then if I push the pawn, the king comes in. So I need my king to help. Just try not to set up your king and rook to get forked. That would be the way to lose this one. Or, you know what I maybe should do, is bring my king over here. This area is under control. Yeah. I should have gone here then, if that's my plan. Yeah, I was gonna say. Set up a problem for the king on both sides of the board. Right now the knight is blockading, but if the king leaves, I can come here and promote. So what I need to do is give the king something to do over here. Okay, maybe I'll try to make an excuse for this move and push here instead. Then moving here won't have been as silly. Okay. I don't want to do this. This locks things down in there. Here makes the H file kind of dangerous. I think I just want something quiet like this. And then here? Also, things are now open enough that I guess I could sweep my rook in and come over here and pick up pawns if I wanted. But that drops this. Okay. So I think we want to take this way. Now my one pawn stops these two. And I can use this to open things up. How do I get my king to contribute? Or maybe it's this. Now that they've given up this pawn, now I have this to break things down. Ooh, I don't think that was right. You can't come onto this file, which means I can pick up the knight. Okay, a successful result. And I think I was pretty good about undefended pieces. I didn't do it as methodically as I planned to, i.e. at the beginning of every turn. Oh, opponent's already requesting a computer analysis. How nice. I assume that's why it's giving me one already. Yeah. Wow. This was my best game ever, right? Like, I don't know. There was a game where it said no mistakes, and I had a mistake here. But 27 center pawn loss, that's really good for me. I mean, some of it is the longer time control. I don't think I could have done all this in a 10-5 game. I mean, how much time did I actually spend? 11:15 plus also 40 seconds. No, 400 seconds. Yes, this is way more time than I would have had in a 10-5 game. I think I made good use of it. Oh, minus 69.4, pretty substantial. All right, let's see what my mistake was. We'll ask the computer, and then I'll just go through looking for undefended piece mistakes, which is what I really care about. So it doesn't like bishop here. Why did I play bishop here again? It was just like a developing move. But it makes my knight developments both kind of suck. And then the next thing I did was like shove a knight up in his face, right? Yeah, which it calls an inaccuracy as well. Oh, look at that. Interesting. I had 2 inaccuracies and 1 mistake, and it was 3 moves in a row right here. 10, 11, and 12. Or 9, 10, and 11. Yeah, I know I can do better. I didn't mean to skip forward and play the same move again. So it doesn't like this. We could try this, which I think is actually pretty cool. It lets me advance this pawn, getting it, by the way, in front of where I really want to put the knight, and trying to challenge White's center. I don't know, do you call the C pawn in the center? Like, not usually. The center is the D and E files. The C is kind of like wing-ish. But when this is their central control, even though some of it leaks off the edge, it's their central. So I think we do this, right? No, that's bad. What exactly is the threat? Is this a problem for me? It doesn't create an isolated pawn because I have this available. Am I just supposed to do this now? I don't think I should develop the knight, because there's not really anywhere good to put him. I want to do something developing. Maybe there's some problem my queen has, but I don't think so. Surely not. I mean, I don't know. This looks very flamboyant, but I don't think it accomplishes anything. I think it sucks a lot. I guess we could try this as a different way to challenge their center, but then I think they do this and they have a pretty good foothold. But I don't know. Maybe this is all right. No? So it's saying they should take this pawn. Why is that? Why is this so good for them? Here, what am I losing? Like, I guess they're saying I should do this to, or, well, maybe rook over? I don't quite understand what the problem is with letting them just take that pawn if they want it. It seems fine. I mean, this would be the way to defend it, but I don't understand why this is good. It's not. Well, it says it's okay. So what move did you prefer? Oh, just take this now. That's another way to stop the trade from happening over there. So, okay, then why? Why is it so bad to do this? Oh no, this is fine. Why is it so bad to do something that doesn't defend this pawn? Say here. What's wrong with letting them take here? It wants to move the queen. She must be in some kind of danger. But I would obviously do this, and then like, ah, my survey of undefended pieces should have told me why this is wrong. This pawn, who I don't think I mentioned during the game, is under threat from a discovery like this. I see. But, and that's why this is an acceptable move, because it defends the pawn. Not because it defends this pawn, but because it defends this one. I see. And that's why my 3 mistakes, I think, were all right around here, because this kind of tactic was sitting there for several turns and nobody did anything about it. Well, okay, this one is a different issue, I guess. It says to come here? Why? I don't really understand that, but okay. Back to learn from your mistakes. We saw this one. I was supposed to do this. Yes. That's my significant mistake. Okay, so now let's do our own review of the game. Arrows off, please. Well, actually, I want the arrows on so it can tell me, it can point to a piece of mine that my opponent should have taken. If it was just hanging. So, like, right now, this bishop's undefended. Fine. It actually doesn't like this trade. Huh. Pawn here is a cute idea. The bishop and the pawn defend each other, and it maintains the pin on the knight. And then I guess if... Huh. If takes, like, I'm down a pawn, how exactly do I get that back? I'm not down a pawn. You just don't take the knight. Take here. Okay. Alright, fair enough. But I didn't do that. I took the knight, which it doesn't like, but says it's not horrible. It doesn't like this. Huh. So whatever... that's interesting. Okay, so this is basically an attack on the D pawn, whereas what I did was an attack on the C pawn. It also... Yeah, this is a pawn that you want to move because it lets you get the knight in without blocking a pawn. Okay. Obviously, it's not directly an attack, but the idea is to follow it up. Say they do this. Follow it up like so at some point. Maybe not immediately. Stockfish doesn't want to do it immediately, but at some point. Follow it up with that. And now they have to give up this pawn duo one way or another. Apparently, this is the best way. And suddenly we have good center control. They have one advanced pawn, but it becomes a bit of a burden to support. I don't know. It actually says that, like, if you do all this stuff, you go from having a 0.3 disadvantage to a point... Oh, right, so you're not supposed to take here. You're supposed to do this. That's so weird. I don't quite understand that. But okay. Anyway, so I didn't do that. I did this. Huh. And it says just launch that c-pawn, huh? Why not here? You get to attack the queen. Huh. This does not look obviously good to me, and indeed, Stockfish doesn't like my position. It's like, it's suggesting this move. It says, oh, you're plus 0.5. Wait, why can't I turn up the eval depth? Oh, because I'm in learn from your mistakes. No, I still can't. Cloud analysis. So I think what this means is that this position has been seen and thoroughly analyzed by other in other games, and therefore it doesn't need to evaluate it locally. And so I don't know. Now that we do this, it's reevaluating the position locally, I think. Is that what this means? And once this gets up to 23, I could turn up the depth even more if I wanted. I think that must be what's going on. Yeah, it says, okay. So we had the cloud analysis here saying it's actually plus 0.5, but when you do this, it uses local analysis. I lost the ability to turn it up again. Okay, here we go. And its local analysis doesn't see as deeply as the cloud analysis from the previous move and says, oh, actually, you're losing. I think. Or it might be that the local analysis sees more deeply, but I don't think that's likely. Anyway, I've very often looked at this and been confused, and that will continue to be the case. But we were evaluating this for like undefended piece blunders. Yeah, I didn't think they should take there. This was my big mistake. Nobody punished it. Yeah, challenge that pawn duo. Good advice. I tried to recreate the blunder. I didn't notice that. Oh, that's a good one. I was like, that's kind of funny. The issue is that I have an undefended piece here, and then like they have this threat, and knight here actually solves the problem because now, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's okay. Now the piece that's here is defended, and the queen is no longer eyeing up a discovery, and then this actually recreates the problem. My knight is an issue now. So okay, I feel like this is actually a great spot to look at and say, at this point in the game, I remember I noticed this bishop was undefended, but I didn't point out that this pawn is undefended, and had been undefended ever since I moved my queen up here. And immediately, there was a tactic available that I missed. Well, maybe not immediately. Like, I don't know. The queen can just pick this up, but apparently it's a bit of an issue for her. Maybe? I don't know. It's a little dangerous for her to be so deep in my camp. Huh. But if I had, well, I don't know. I think it's clearly right to take here, and it creates this weakness, which is bad, and they get to exploit that weakness. But then when they didn't, I was given a chance to rectify the situation. And if I had paid attention to what the queen was doing, that she was no longer doing once I moved her here, I could have seen, oh, this is undefended. Do they have any tactics against it? Okay, and then in real life, I probably would have said, nope, no tactics, and moved along. But actually, they have one. It's here. And I could have addressed it like so. Okay. And then I made the same blunder again. I could have noticed that by noticing that pushing here creates an undefended piece. But remember, that wasn't really what I was trying to do this game. I just wanted to notice undefended pieces when my turn starts. This is obviously a bad move, and it's about undefended pieces, but it's not specifically what I was trying to address this game. So it's like, okay. Whereas this move is the one I'm more like, this is exactly what you were trying not to do this game. So this is something to improve on. What else? It wants me to push the pawn. Yeah, to stop them getting here, I guess. That's a good point. Because of this undefended knight, which I think I mentioned, right? No, he's not undefended. He's defended by a bishop, but he's still like doesn't want to be attacked by a pawn. So, okay, fine. Not exactly what I was trying to address. Yeah, so they made a mistake here by taking with the queen. But they found picking up that pawn, which was pretty cool. It says just take the bishop. Actually, it says they're both fine. Yeah. So they traded queens, as they should. And Stockfish can't decide whether to play what they played or advance the knight. Yeah, it likes this move. They dropped a pawn, and I took it. Good work. Then they attacked my bishop, which creates this tactic that I found. How nice. They should have run away with the bishop. But instead, they... Oh, that's right. This wasn't a tactic yet. It was just like forcing them to move something. So, right. I think they were too afraid of me taking this rook. But that was never actually a threat. The rook is defended, and so I win the exchange. But if they go here first, they win an entire bishop, which is worth more. So that's why they were supposed to take my bishop. This was a blunder because now they don't even get to do that, and I get this excellent pin. So I was very happy with that. And then I just had to convert, and I did so way more slowly than necessary. So it says do go ahead with that check. What does this accomplish? I guess it stops the king from getting over here, maybe? Yeah, and I just start pushing the pawn, and they bring over the knight. I see, the knight is defending here. And it says now get to work on this side. Huh. So I can't quite promote this by force. But now that all their stuff is tied down defending it, I can run over here. Why did I move my rook there? It's defended by the knight, right? I don't know. This is just some like Stockfish piece shuffling, I guess. The important stuff is to move the pawns, and this is just like everybody stalling before having to make a decision, I guess. Okay, so I guess the point is this rook and knight actually can stop me from pushing, but it gives me an entire rook to work with if they try. And king. So I should be working on this side of the board. Oh my god. Just never let Stockfish just make a bunch of... I don't know. So I didn't play that check, though. I went here, worried about this pawn, because I wanted, I think, to bring my king over. Alright, I was worried about this rook entering. And this is the file, or the rank you would want to enter on. And Stockfish says this is fine. You're still hugely winning. Not any kind of blunder. Oh, right. So I was... Is that actually what I did? No, I started putting spacebar to make the Stockfish move instead of right arrow to make my move. Yeah, okay. So this looks more like the game. And it still says go in for that check. It says this is a big mistake, actually. Interesting. Ah, because... Right. Right now, the rook is under attack, and the knight is threatening to blockade. You could stop that with here, I think. I don't know. Can you? What did I actually play? I played this. This seems bad, yeah. Because now the knight can blockade. If you go here, the knight can't blockade, and you can just push. Which I think would be fine. It's like this even better, because you can still push. But you've got this rook like way up here where I don't know exactly why that's so great. It's a little harder for the knight to get to him, I guess, than if you were to put him here, which was my idea. Okay. But actually what I did was this. Mistake. Oh, and it hates moving my king over. Right, because he's needed over on this side of the board, I think. Huh. Okay. Was there something they were supposed to do besides sack the rook? It actually says sacking the rook is the best play by far. This is second best to stop the push? Not stop it, but... Yeah, I guess there's nothing they can do to stop me pushing other than getting rid of that rook. Okay, I see why they did it now. And it actually doesn't mind me moving my king around because it doesn't really matter. I have all the time in the world to bring my king to where he actually belongs. Yeah, they were supposed to lock this up, I agree. Taking there was an error. Oh, that's something funny I hadn't noticed. My rook is obviously, like, stopping the king from attacking the pawn because he has this file under control. What I didn't notice is he also has this rank under control by tactics. Right? The king, it's actually illegal, like, not illegal, but it's impossible for the king to come over and help, even if he wanted to give up on this pawn. Because as soon as he does, I pick up the knight. Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Supposed to just, like, do this. And guard the promotion square instead. I'm not sure why this is so great. Oh, it's so I can actually push the pawn, right? Maybe? Yeah, it's saying, well, to just kind of stall over here, I guess. But now, I see the problem, yes. So, you can go, oops. You can go here, stopping immediate promotion. Then I pick up the knight. King comes over. And I actually do end up losing the pawn. Because the king, the rook, and the pawn are both under attack, and I can't defend them both. So I run away. But I do get the knight. If you go here. But if you do this, I also get the knight. It gives up the... I get the knight, but, like, even better, I get to queen. That's... I don't know, that's why this seems better to me. But I don't know, they're both super winning, so who cares? Alright, so I think this was a productive exercise, and I don't know if it's actually good footage. I hope it is. For those of you who are, like, trying to improve your chess play and are as bad as I am, I think the people watching these videos are probably better players who are like, wow, you know, it's cool to watch a beginning player learn, maybe. In which case, you know, this was me learning better than in previous games, I think. So I hope you liked it. I won't find out for weeks when this video gets published. Anyway, that's all for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.